Right, Callum Smith, about to fight for the WBC Diamond title, but also significantly in the World Boxing Super Series. First off, talk us through why you decided to enter that tournament.
How long have you got? It was just, obviously I've become mandatory for the WBC title, and the minute I won that, I kind of thought it was guaranteed. I was fighting for the world title, and it should have been, to be honest with you, but Eddie lost the pace bid and we kind of lost power then, and it was more in DeGale's team's hands, and it just felt like they was just doing everything they could to mess me about and take the fight further and further away from me. I got told early May, then got told the end of May, middle of June, then I got sent a contract for the 9th of September in LA. I thought fair enough, been to LA before, pretty neutral, and we got told we had by midnight to sign it, the both of us, or we lost the fight, so I signed it, and it was like a big weight off my shoulders. I thought that was it, I finally got what I wanted cemented, and then into training camp, and then we heard they want to change the date and change the location to Flint, Michigan.
Which is Anti-Darrell's hometown.
Yeah, where he's from, which wouldn't have bothered me, because when I got told the end of May, I got told Flint, and it's not ideal, but I was willing to go there. But it was more the fact that I'd signed a contract, and a contract should mean something, should stand for something. So they went to the WBC, and the WBC agreed to do it. And at the same time, I've been getting offered the tournament for a while now, but I've always been leaving it because I wanted to continue the path down the WBC. And then it just got to a point where the WBC fight just kept getting moved and moved and moved, and I felt like it was never going to happen. And the tournament gave me the quickest date possible, guaranteed fight date, and providing I keep winning, 3 guaranteed fight dates. So it was just more stability really for my career, and I feel I've spent too long waiting and stalling my career. I haven't boxed since December, but even before that I've had sort of keep busy fights and while I was waiting, so it's been like a good 18 months since I've had a proper fight where I've had that fear factor where if I don't turn up there's a good chance I'll lose. And I've always said I feel they bring out the best in me, and this provides me with that. This will provide me with 3 fights where I need to be at the top of my game to win, and that's what I want to be in the sport for.
Do you think Anti-Darrell was trying to get out of fighting you with all the sort of shenanigans around moving the day and moving the location and that kind of thing?
Yeah, not necessarily him, because he's a good fighter. He's been a champion before and he's boxed a lot of good people, and I don't think it was him who didn't want to fight. I feel his team may have wanted a different route for him, possibly, but we never know if that was the plan. Then it worked because I chose a different route in the end, but I just felt like if they really wanted to fight they could have put it on whenever they wanted to in May. I think they won the pace bid in March or April or something, so it was March they won it, so they had enough time to put it on. And no, I think if I wouldn't have chose to go in the tournament I'd still be waiting now to get a confirmed date. So I'd love to win a WBC title, I still would. It's a great belt, it's one that I've wanted to win since I was a kid, but I just felt this time wasn't right, and I had to do what was best for me and my career, and I think the tournament is that.
Am I right in saying that James DeGale on that 02 July show was a possible option?
Yeah, and I've seen a few people saying I ducked DeGale and I turned DeGale. I agreed to the DeGale fight. He was getting offered for a long time, and I was saying I wanted because he was offering a bad split, to be honest with you, and I thought if I go and beat Darrell, I've got my own world title, and then we'll talk. But then it got to the point where, as I said, the Darrell fight was getting pushed back, and now when I had a meeting with Eddie and agreed to the DeGale fight, and they said they'd send a contract up within 24 to 48 hours, and I went home a happy man. I told all my mates the DeGale fight's happening 1st of July, and then I was still waiting, and then in the meantime they come on and they didn't know whether the IBF were going to sanction it, because obviously he had his mandatory and stuff, and I was still waiting, and then they were like maybe they will, maybe they won't, and then I think it was like 10 days later I still hadn't had a contract, and the WBC one got sent and said you've got by midnight to sign it. So I was sort of pressured into that, and I thought, well, you know what, the DeGale thing isn't confirmed and I don't want to lose the shot that I've always wanted, so I signed for that. So was the DeGale fight offered? Yeah, but did I turn it down? No, I agreed to it. I'd love the DeGale fight. I've always said at the minute I feel he's the man to beat. I think if you look at the ratings he should be #1 in the world, and that's the fight I want, so that gave me a straight shot at being the best in the division, which I believe I'm good enough to achieve given time and given the right fight. So it's definitely a fight that I'd love, and I did agree to at that time. It didn't happen, but I do feel it can happen in the future, definitely.
Yeah, and it wasn't straightforward because there was Gatagui.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I think the stalling was,
yeah.
because they had to get obviously permission for him, because he had a mandatory, so they had to get permission for him to have a voluntary, and I don't know whether the IBF were going to agree to it. I think they might have in the end, I'm not sure, but boxing's complicated. I've realised that over the last year it's not as straightforward as people like to think, but yeah, I had a few tweets saying he ducked DeGale and stuff, and it couldn't be further from the truth. I agreed to the fight, and no, James DeGale's a very good fighter, but that's a fight I'd love, and I do think it will happen.
Yeah, which by no means off the table, is it?
Yeah, no, that fight will always be big, exactly,
well.
yeah, and no, I entered this tournament because I believe I can win the whole thing. I wouldn't give up a world title shot if I didn't believe I could win this, and this tournament, hopefully if I win it, provides me with a world title as well. So no, you never know in the future. We're both from Britain, so I think the likes of the fight with me, DeGale grows, me grows, then fights will always be talked about, and there'll always be a demand to see them. So no, I do feel that fight will always be there.
Yeah, and going through this tournament could make that fight absolutely huge if this tournament sort of makes you a star.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's nice to sit and think about it. I could lose my first fight and it's all gone, but no, in an ideal world, this tournament will set up a fight with me and George Groves, or me and Eubank Jr, and they're both huge fights, and then whoever wins the tournament against the Gales, and an even bigger fight back home. And I think you've seen in the past with your Frampton Quiggs, your Froch Groves, people love a domestic fight, and they're the ones people want to be involved in, and there's 3 in my division which I could be involved in, and they're the fights I want, they're the fights I feel other people want to see. So this tournament gives me a way of getting one, and then hopefully I can have the other ones when I come out the tournament.
Do you think DeGale's being clever by sitting out the tournament, letting you guys knock lumps out of each other?
Possibly, yeah, I think his injury will have kept him out anyway, but I don't know, I think it could work out smart. We could all have tough fights in it and then come out and he could await the winner, but I do feel without the injuries, I like to have been in the tournament to give him the opportunity to have big fights and no guaranteed fights. The good thing about this tournament is there's no negotiating. Once you're in the tournament, I win my quarter-final, I fight whoever's in the semi-final. There's no negotiating again about where we fight, here, there, paces and all that. It's all done for the next 3 fights, so it's just about the actual fighting, which is what I was in the sport to do, not go through negotiating and politics and stuff like that. I mean, it's a boxing. This tournament gives me that.
Yeah, no, I see that, absolutely. And actually it sort of works out quite well for you, and you've got 2 good fights that will help, presumably, as long as you win them, will help prepare you for a top level guy.
Yeah, definitely.
Or a couple of top level guys straight after
100%. And I was speaking with Scott Quigg about it the other day, and he was saying the exact same thing. By the time I get to the final, I'll have had 2 good fights at a good level, and I'll have improved in each of them camps and in each of them fights, so I'll be a better fighter in the final fighting George Groves and Eubank than I would have been fighting them now. So it could all work out great, providing I'll come through my first 2 fights. But I'm excited. It's a good tournament, and it's giving me that little bit of buzz again, like when I first turned pro. I'm enjoying my training. Now I'm putting the work in with Joe, but I know this tournament, it's, when you look at the layout, it's a very good tournament. It'll be a tough tournament to win, and that only drives me on. That gives me that fear factor, and I don't want to lose, and no one likes losing, and I haven't lost before, and I don't plan on losing anytime soon. So it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to getting underway. You still talk to Scott Quigg even though he's left the gym? Yeah, I still know he's my mate. We still text and all that when he's over in LA, but he was over. He's home at the minute, and he was at my brother's wedding last week, so I was chatting to him at the wedding. Yeah, no, he's good. But yeah, he always texts and that, and I was quite close to him in the gym. I was gutted when he left, to be honest with you. I like training him. He's a very good trainer to be around as well, but hopefully he can have some big fights for him as well in the future. Yeah.
So let's talk about Skoglund. So you chose him as your opponent. Why did you select him?
I've always heard of him. He's a good light heavyweight, got good rankings, but I'd never really paid much attention to him for that reason. He wasn't in my weight division, and you never really seen a fight with me and him happening. But the minute I agreed to the tournament, we knew the people who were in it, and we knew the 4 non-seeds I had a choice out of, and we started doing a bit of homework on all of them, and there wasn't really an easy fight. They were all unbeaten. They were all good fighters, so it wasn't like I picked him saying he's no good and all that. But the more we studied him, I just felt stylistically he was the best in me. People have seen me get in and knock people out and have a fight, but I've always said I believe I'm a better boxer than I am a fighter, and I think his stand-up boxing style I'm making a bit more of a boxing match, and I get to use my skills, my boxing brain a bit more, which I feel people haven't seen enough of. I've had a lot of early wins in my career, and I've had a lot of first round ones, and if you look at my record you think I was to come out at 100 mile an hour, and I don't. I'm a thinking fighter and a boxer, and I think this fight will give people a chance to see that.
Yeah, so I was just about to ask what type of a fight do you see it being? So do you see it being sort of maybe a longer distance, more tactical?
Yeah, possibly. Don't me wrong, if I catch him early and hurt him, I'll do my best to get rid of him, but no, he's used to taking shots off light heavyweights. He's big, he's unbeaten, and I think he'll be pretty durable. He's tall. I think he probably come down thinking he'd be bigger than whoever he boxed, and he's been picked by the only one who's got a size advantage on him, so it's a bit unfortunate for him. But yeah, he's a good boxer, he's a good long range puncher, and he likes a fight when he has to, he can dig in and stuff, so I think it'll start off a boxing match. It could end up a bit of a brawling part of it, but I think when you've got two tall guys, I think the skill should show, and I believe I'm the better skillful boxer. I just think he does a lot of things well, but everything he does I believe I do a little bit better.
And it's on September the 16th at the Echo Arena.
Yeah.
Do you know who's going to be televising it?
No, still I've been getting asked a lot. There's a few rumours. I think Sky are possibly out the running. I don't think because I think you've got to buy the full block at the tournament. You can't just pick individual fights. So I think it works out 14 dates, and I don't think Sky can afford to give that up. So
Sky are probably only interested in
the British ones, and as much as like the cruiserweight tournament's a very good tournament to your average man, no one really knows them, so your boxing fans will watch it, but you know what people wouldn't, so I think that probably takes them out of it. But there's a lot of other broadcasters, BT, ITV, BBC, there's a lot of others who could possibly get it, but either way I think it'll be, once it gets going I think people will enjoy it, and I think the more as the weeks go on, more people will start getting involved in it, because I think it's very good for boxing. I think it's something different. It's more like the football, Champions League. The draw. If you win, you're through. You lose, you're out. And
isn't it created by the company?
Yeah, I think behind the Champions League. Yes, I think that's what they're trying to make it, the Champions League of boxing, and I think it's a good idea. And people like different things in boxing, and I think that's why it's had a lot of interest so far.
So, but the show itself isn't promoted by Matchroom.
No, it's promoted by Camosa, whoever.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they're going to work, how they're going to do the undercard, because obviously each fight's got its own card sort of thing, so they're going to have to find the undercard. So I'm interested to see how it all pans out, how they work the undercards, who puts it on, who promotes it and stuff like that, and it'd be nice to know who's going to televise it. It's getting closer and closer to the date now, but I've heard tickets are going to go on sale next week, so that's a start, and then hopefully they must be pretty close to getting a broadcaster settled now.
So some European promotions, they have like a musician performing a song for the main event. Hopefully this is going to come to England. Yeah,
hopefully, and if Monte Carlo's anything to go by, then they're going to do everything. They're going to do everything the best they possibly can. So, no, it was good. It got me a bit more excited when I was over there, seeing even just the draft, picking the draw. It was a big event and stuff. So if that was things to come by, then I'm really looking forward to it, and I do believe it was the best decision I've made to go in the tournament.
Does it affect your relationship with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom that it's not that you're, for the first time in your professional career, that you're not on a Matchroom bill?
No, because obviously we spoke with Eddie while the negotiations for the tournament were going on, and he was obviously involved in the WBC negotiations, and he knew how much of a mess it was getting. So I think he agreed it was the best decision for me, and I'm in the tournament as a Matchroom fighter, so he's kind of on board with me, probably Cox, and I think Perez, the Cuban, I think he's got him, so he's on board, and once I leave the tournament, then I'll probably go back fighting on Sky with Matchroom. It's just an opportunity, 3 fights, nothing more, and hopefully nothing less, and I just think it was best. I had to do what was best for me personally, and this tournament was that, and Eddie agreed.
It almost seems like at the moment British boxing is getting so big that there's so many opportunities around, but they're not all going to be on one TV channel. Like we've had, like Matchroom had O'Hara Davis going to Channel 5.
Yeah, I seen an interview with Eddie the other day saying that, like, if an opportunity comes up and it's not on Sky, they're not going to hold you back and stop you, taking a good opportunity just because of your loyalties to Sky. Sky's a great broadcaster, and I enjoy fighting on there. I think it's the best broadcaster, but if an opportunity arises like this tournament, I couldn't turn it down. I remember speaking with Joe when we were debating, and he just said, like, he wouldn't want me to be sitting around still waiting for the WBC title fight and seeing other fighters fighting in the tournament, getting good publicity in and good money, and me sitting there thinking I'd beat him, and me not being a part of the tournament, and then it being a success, but then next year they do a welterweight and a lightweight, and my chance is gone. I don't think the super middleweights will come round again for a bit like prize fighter. They do one weight and then they do all of the weights before they come back. So if I was going to do it, this was my only chance to do it, and I feel I had to take it.
Yeah. And if everything goes well on the 16th, will you then have the winner of Jürgen Bremer and Rob Brandt?
Yeah.
So what do you think of that fight, and who do you think's gonna win?
It's tough. I watched a bit of Brandt. I watched a couple of his early fights and thought he was quite poor, to be brutally honest, but then I watched a few of his recent fights and he's improved a lot. He's with a good trainer. He's in the same gym as Errol Spence. He does a lot of sparring with Errol Spence and the Charlos and stuff, and he's improved a lot. He's a good fighter. I just think he's a bit small. He's a middleweight naturally.
He's coming up and Bremer's coming down.
And Bremer's coming down, so whether the size difference might be a bit too much, but I don't know, because I think Brand's up and coming. Yeah. He's unbeaten and he's got that bit of fire in him, whereas what's Bremer got left, we don't know. He hasn't boxed for a while since the Cleverly one.
And cutting weight is as well is no effect.
Yeah, he's been at light heavy for a long time, so to come down could have an effect on him, and it was just motivational. I think it got a bit tough in the Cleverly fight and he looked for a way out. That's my opinion. It might not have been. He said he had an injury, but I think if he really wanted that fight and it was an injury, he'd either call for a straight rematch, and he didn't. And I don't know whether the pace Cleverly set was getting to him, and I don't know whether that's signs of him showing his age, but he's been offered a good opportunity in this tournament and he's took it. Maybe it might bring out that last little bit left in him. I'm not sure how old he is. I think he's like 30s and stuff, so you'll have to wait and see. But
he looks older.
Yeah, that's what I mean, and he's into coaching now. He coaches Tyrone Zoyger and stuff, so I think a lot's got to do with what Bremer has left. He was a very good fighter in his day and a hard to beat fighter, so if he's got stuff left, then maybe he might be a little bit too big for Brand, but if he hasn't, then I think you've got to go with the young up and coming fighter in Brand.
And on the other side of the tournament, Eubank Jr versus Anthony Yildirim, if I'm pronouncing that right. What do you think of both of them?
It's a good fight. It's a very good fight. I think stylistically it'll be a pleasing one to watch. I've done a bit of research on Yildirim, because if I was to beat DeGale, he was my mandatory challenger, so he'd be my next fight, and he's come down from light heavy a couple of years ago, I think, so he's strong, physical, and I think his nickname is Mr. Robot. He's quite relentless, doesn't stop. I don't think he's the biggest puncher, but he's got a good work rate, and it's similar to Eubank. I don't think he's the biggest puncher, but he's got a very good work rate, so I think the two of them should just meet head on and knock a few lumps out of each other, but I think it'll be a pleasing one to watch. I think for the fans of the 4 quarterfinals, I think that could be the best one.
Were you surprised that Eubank picked him for his first fight?
Yeah, because he had the choice out of him, who's a super middleweight but comes down from light heavy, so he's quite big for the weight, and Brand, who's a middleweight, and Eubank really is a middleweight. He's not long moved up to super middle, so I thought they might have gone with the smaller man to make it more of a level playing field, but I don't know whether it was juniors' decision or seniors, but they picked Yildirim and they fancy the chances with it. But it's one of them. If he obviously believes he's good enough to win the whole tournament, so he'll beat whoever's in it. It's a good attitude to have. But yeah, I was a little bit shocked, but it is what it is. He's got to prove it was the right decision and come through.
What did you think of his fight against Abraham and his performance there?
I haven't seen a lot of it. Obviously, I was at my brother's wedding while it was on, so I didn't watch it live. I've seen bits since.
You didn't interrupt your brother's wedding to watch
No, but I just think it was basically what I predicted beforehand, a wide points win for Eubank. I think Eubank, Abraham's tough. I don't think Eubank is the biggest puncher at super middle. so I didn't think he'd get him out of there, but Abraham is pretty lazy, especially how he's getting older, and Eubank's got a very good work rate, and I just thought the stars were made for each other, and Eubank could just have too much of a good engine and work rate for him and outwork him most rounds, and I believe that's what happened from what I've seen.
Do you think Eubank is as good as he thinks he is?
No, not as good.
He's a good fighter.
Yeah, he's a good fighter, but he's just not. I don't think he's as good as he believes. He'd beat Golovkin, he'd beat Andre Ward, he'd beat probably Anthony Joshua if you asked him. I just think they think he's elite, whereas he's a good, solid fighter, and he's still improving. He's still getting better. He's only young, but so yeah, he's good, but he's not as good as I think they probably put him up there pound for pound, best in the world, and he's not that good. But no, as I said, he's still improving, and we'll see. I think we'll get to see how good he is in this tournament, because he'll have to fight good people who could bring out the best in him. We'll see how good he really is.
How elite do you think George Groves is?
George Groves is a good fighter. I think he's always been a good fighter. He had the losses to Carl Froch, which isn't no shame really. He's a good fighter, but he's a good fighter, and he finally got his world title, and he's done well in winning it. He's got a lot of strength, but he's still got them vulnerabilities, I believe. But I think that's what makes him exciting to watch.
And do you have a sort of hunch of who it might be that you could meet in the final of the Super Series?
I think originally it was planned out. No, it looked like it was going to be me v Groves, but I think Groves Eubank in the semi-final is a good fight. I think Groves is the bigger man, the harder puncher, probably the better skilled, but he's been known to have slight stamina issues in a few of his fights, and Eubank's Everton. Groves doesn't like. He's got a good work rate and could keep working, but I don't know. That's a very interesting one. We were speaking about in the gym the other day. I think opinions are split on who wins, but I'll look forward to seeing it, and hopefully I'll do my job and I'll await the winner in the final.
Excellent. And just finally, in the kind of last few weeks, we've got until your fight. Can you tell us a bit about what you're going to be doing in training and how you'll be preparing for that fight?
Yeah, training's going well, to be honest with you. I believe so far this has been the best camp I've had as a professional. Like I said earlier on, I've got that fear factor. I know I need to be at my very best to beat Erik Skoglund, and I'm very best to beat anyone else in the tournament. It's a tough tournament. I believe I'm good enough to do it. I've just got to keep improving, keep working with Joe, and I do believe we'll go on and win the whole thing. But it's good to finally have a fight that gets me juices going, and I know that it'll be a tough fight on the night, and I will need to be at my best. And as I've always said, the better the opponent will bring the best out in me, and I believe I've backed that up so far, and I believe I'll do it again on September 16th.
Well, on that note, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, John.
Best of luck for the fight.
No worries.